Does doing God's will mean that every single time things are going to go wonderful? The short answer is no. I'm Stephen Tocher, and I've helped coach thousands of people over the past 20 years when it comes to their family, their fitness, and their faith, and I'd love to help millions more over the next 40 years. So, if we even look at the Apostle Paul in his Christ like journey towards the kingdom of heaven, we see that the Apostle Paul is met not with flowers and roses. I'm sure it happened to him sometimes, but he was met with a lot of hardship. Doing God's will is not always going to be easy. Now, again, it will sometimes be easy, that's for sure. And we don't hear a lot of Paul's writings about when he's sitting down with people and spending weeks or months. We don't have all those documented times when everything is going fairly wonderfully for the Apostle Paul. But we do have a lot of the times where he is documenting of the hurts and pains, the times that he's in prison, which is a lot of his ministry. So right off the bat, I'm going to say no. Now let's look at the life of Jonah. We're going to look at the first few verses today. I'm not going to be pulling up the actual verses per se, but if you want to follow along in the Bible, you can. I'm just going off some of this off of memory. But when it comes to God's will, we see in Jonah's life that he, right off the bat, he is a prophet of some kind. And he's being instructed by God in the first couple verses to go to Nineveh. Now, Nineveh is not a wonderful place to go to. If I have everything clear, which I hope I do, Nineveh was a place that for centuries was known for its evil, its maliciousness, to the point where they would even keep someone alive in a tortured state by having their head above the sand in the desert while keeping their face open to the elements and animals. And this would keep them alive for at least days until they ran out of water, because the coolness of the under the sand would keep their bodies hydrated enough or wet or moist enough that only their face would slowly deteriorate and they would burn to death. So these people were fairly cruel. Maybe I don't have that exactly right, but they were not exactly humanitarians. And at some point over those years of maliciousness, there had been raids on Israel. There was just a lot of war. And Jonah knew that the people of Nineveh were awful, miserable acting people. And so when he was called to go and help them, right away he's like, no, I'm good. So within the first 4 or 5 verses, he's busting a move. He gets on a ship and he's going in the opposite direction. And here we have this first impasse of obviously God calling him somewhere, and it's a direct call, unlike in our lives, which may not be direct all the time. This was a direct call, and his direct call was to go to Nineveh. And so in a lot of our lives, we may not have that exact calling, but something may come up in our way when it comes, situationally, job opportunity. Maybe someone speaks into your life, or you have a great mentor, or maybe it is very clear and God is pointing you in a certain direction. But along the way, we kind of either get convoluted or we run. And in this first impasse, we see that Jonah hears the call, it's very clear, and he books it. Now, when we look at Christianity today, we see a lot of polar opposites. One of the major polar opposites is you're going to live an amazing life if you come to know God, and God's going to fulfill all your dreams and promises, and it's going to look like a Disney production. Well, maybe a Disney production 20 years ago, not so much now. And that's, on one side of the scale. The other side is that people are going to tell you that every bit of Christianity is the worst thing in the world. It's awful, it's miserable, it's brutal. And if you become a Christian, you might as well sell off everything you have and just live a miserable existence. I think both of these are very skewed. But I do think that we are going to come under serious attack from time to time in our life. And I also think that we are going to have to do some things that are going to cause us to grow. We're going to have some moments where our faith is going to be tested. And as we see in Jonah's life, he's a prophet, so I assume he's gone through things with God in the past. And I don't know if there's any, historical writings or facts that we know that he's actually gone through things in the past, but he had a very clear path to the Lord, and that path, even with the instruction that he's received from the Lord, we assume in the past, he's like, no, I'm good. I'm going to book it. I'm gone off in the opposite direction of Nineveh. Now, when he first gets on that boat, and I'm speculating a little bit here, seems like everything's going according to plan. Yeah, maybe it was just something he ate the night before. Maybe it's not God who was actually speaking to him. And, maybe he thinks that, everything is going to go peachy and wonderful and amazing. And, God's will is actually for him to not go to Nineveh, for those dirty, terrible, horrible sinners to just wallow in their garbage and die a miserable death away from God. And it's interesting too, because God had never really asked anyone else to go and be a missionary like this up until we see John the Baptist, inevitably Jesus and the disciples. This was a very unique situation that Jonah was in. So, we could always give him the shadow of the doubt and say, hey, well, maybe Jonah, was like, oh, no one's ever done this before. This is, the God, the word given to the Jews is only really for the Jews. But if you look at the text, if you look at how even God spoke to Abraham, the Jewish people, especially the prophets, would know that God is actually going to be connecting with the whole world and inevitably through Jesus, but they didn't know exactly how it was going to happen at the time. So, to make a long story short here in part one, we see that Jonah's on the run. It seems like everything is going super smooth, and that's where some people will place their faith. They'll put their faith in, hey, you know what? God's will doesn't want me to go through trials and tribulations and hurts and pains. I'll choose the easiest way, the easiest path. And we see in these first, I think by verse 5, God says, nope, my will is going to drive you back to the place that I called you into. And inevitably, and we will talk about this in the future, inevitably, Jonah does end up going to Nineveh, and spoiler alert, they all, want to know God, and they all start changing over. We see the first city-wide, country, town-wide revival, in human history, where everyone just pretty much converts, and Jonah's left as a miserable sack because he doesn't know what to do with his feelings. But in the moment, Jonah went through some rough stuff, and he is, Jonah is in the moment, as we leave off the story for today, he goes off into this boat, and he feels that God has called him to a place that shouldn't be helped, or maybe it wasn't his calling in the first place, and then inevitably God sends this massive storm. And here we are at this first major impasse of God's will on Jonah's life. And God's will is to say, hey, I want you to go back to that place that you think is unredeemable, unsavable. So I think about it in our own lives. What position or situation has God put you in that has caused you to think what is unredeemable or unsavable? Or is it something that takes you out of your comfort zone? And there are going to be plenty of times in your life as a Christian where God pours out his blessings on you and life is going to be really wonderful and you are going to just be so happy to be basking in God's will. But there are going to be definitely some times when you're going to be pushed, and when you're pushed, of course, God's blessings will flow out of you inevitably, but it is not going to be easy at the beginning. So, if anyone has any comments or questions, please drop it in the comments section below. I would love to answer any questions that you have. And I'll just cap off this first part of the video before I open up to answer any questions that anyone might have. So let me cap off properly, and then I'll leave myself open to any comments or questions. If you'd like to take a look at any other, if you'd like to take a look at any other of the videos in the Dad Doing Dishes series, take a look at the videos up here. And if you'd like to subscribe, please do that down here. I'm so thankful for the time that we've had together. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless. All right, so if anyone has any questions or thoughts, please let me, hey Nella, how are you? Sorry about that. Hey Odele. Nice to see you. Thanks for the like. I appreciate it. If anyone else is on and they have any questions, www. Thank you for saying all those highs and those likes, Noah. I appreciate that. That's really kind of you. I just tried at the beginning of the stream to do a video to share a message before I start looking at the comment section. So I apologize. If you're still on, thank you for being here with me tonight. We're doing part 1 of Jonah, God's will. If anyone has any questions about God's will in their lives, or if they're facing any uphill battles, or questions about faith, about family, about fitness, food, I love sports as a whole. If anyone has any questions about even about finances, like I said before, I've helped thousands of people, life coached them in different ways and mentored, and I'd like to help millions more over the next 40 years. So just check in the chat here, see if anyone else has anything they'd like to say or ask any questions. I'm definitely open, and to those of you who stuck around for the first part when I was talking about Jonah, I will try to continue that series as daily as I can. It is difficult now with 3 kiddos to keep up doing the videos like I did for a few months there and I did in the past, but I'm finally getting back into it, and eventually, hopefully I'll be streaming every day, multiple times a day. In my peak, I'd love to be able to do a devotional and ask questions in the evening and some fitness, maybe even some food. I just want to hit all the pillars in my life that I really love. I really love fitness across the board. I really love connecting people. Some of you may know I used to weigh over 300 pounds. I'm down to, I got down to about 185, and I was really thin, about 6'3", about 192, 193 centimeters. I didn't have the finances to really push it and get the amount of protein that I needed into my body. I should have been hitting around 200 grams of protein. I was only getting about 100 to 120 grams of protein 10 years ago. So since then I put on around 10 pounds of muscle, maybe 10 pounds of fat, and now I'm on a journey to get rid of that pouch that I had 10 years ago, get rid of the 20 pounds of fat and continue to build muscle so I can hover around 200, 210 and be as healthy as I can be for the long haul and for my families. Oh, hey, sorry, Odelay. Is 400 jumping jacks, 150 push-ups, and 70 sit-ups enough for a 170-pound man, or should I be doing more to stay fit? Oh, no, I think that's a great regimen, Odelay. Thank you for the question. So I would say the regimen side of things that you want to be following will that's a great start. That's actually quite fantastic. Now I'll ask you, do you do all 400, 150, and 70 in a row? Do you do it in sets? How do you break that down, and over what duration of time do you do those sets? And that's all body weight work. That's fantastic. 170 pounds, that's amazing. You know, before you answer that, while you answer that too, there's also variations of jumping jacks that you can do. There's variations of push-ups where you can target your triceps, your deltoids, more of your pecs. So there are a bunch of different types of push-ups that you can do, and sit-ups as well. So you can target, you know, the push-up involving the plank and some of your different muscles throughout your body are going to be really fantastic, especially if you do them as slow as possible for the front cage of your body. The crunches will help at the back, again, depending on the types of sit-ups you're doing. And the jumping jacks is usually a fairly total body workout. So if you want to stay fit and you want to stay, I would say if you want to stay at a reasonable level of fitness, you will be considered fit in most circles. You'll probably be in the 2 to 5%, no doubt. But I would definitely suggest some variations. Sometimes I do sets of 200 in the morning, 200 in the afternoon, 200 in the evening. Push and stretch. Okay, so again, that's a really good regimen that you're on. But the key is that you may not be heading to proper failure. So it's not about doing maybe a lot of push-ups, a lot of jumping jacks, and a lot of sit-ups. It might be that you have to increase the amount of stress that you're putting on your body. So let's just take those 3 core exercises, which are fantastic. Let me take nothing away from you there. I can't do that. I'm in my 40s now. I just don't have the energy to do that throughout the day. But more or less what we're getting at is the stresses on your body, because that's essentially what makes your muscles grow and keeps your level of fitness up. So instead of doing the 400 jumping jacks, let's try doing burpees. I don't know, Odele, if you've ever seen a proper burpee done. You can just simply Google it to make sure, or YouTube it to make sure that you're doing it with proper form. But a burpee is essentially doing a push-up and a jumping jack at the same time. Within the same exercise, or the same one individual rep. So as you go down from your jumping jack position, you're going to get into a semi-squat position and then flare your legs out and then do a push-up. That is going to cause your body to be under a lot more stress and fatigue. Oh, I know those are a good idea. I never knew that the name. Yeah, so just look up burpee. Yeah, look up burpees and look up different techniques, because there's going to be different types of burpees. So that's a way that you can engage your muscles in a different way. You may also, for instance, with the push-ups or the burpees, you may want to engage with a wider or tighter set a wider grip or a tighter grip, depending on where your hands land on the floor. So if you're doing a tighter grip, you're going to flex more of the tricep. If you do a wider grip, you're going to engage more of the chest. If you do a cross, you're going to get more of the deltoid and the inside outside of the tricep. There's also different ways to engage the bicep. And then when it comes to sit-ups, you can you can add like bicycle kicks, where you're doing bicycle reps. You can do something called plyometrics, which is, instead of always just doing the rep itself and tiring out potentially your back and your muscles, working on your posture and holding your muscle in the right place for a long period of time to engage a deeper sense of burn. Because if you're doing crunches over and over and over, especially at a high speed, what ends up happening is you end up hurting your joints over time. And I'm talking about like decades, right? When you're doing stuff like plyometrics as you get older, or incorporating a sit-up with plyometrics, you're going to hold your leg out, and cause your muscle fibers to twitch and engage, just like you'd be holding a plank for a long period of time. As they say, plyometrics is one of the best ways for muscle growth. For push-ups too, you can always wear a heavier backpack. You don't have to get a weight vest to start off. And if you want to do your jumping jacks, your burpees with a weighted or push-ups with a weighted a weighted vest, you can do that. But you can also look into just using a backpack and adding in water bottles or books, and just even putting them on the scale to see how heavy they are when you add that backpack in. And over time, you will definitely feel it as you slow down the motion, and you don't go for reps, because the numbers sound really nice and you're just like, man, I hit 200, 400, 600 today. But do them slower, and feel the burn and feel your muscles actually growing. And since you have the time and the energy, you might as well do that. I'm hoping it will reduce my stubborn visceral fat that's hard to get rid of. I mean, it comes down to your calories in and your calories out. But a lot of it comes down to also to the types of calories that you're putting in. So your body may be holding on to that visceral fat because of your body's disposition towards carbs or protein. So I don't know if... oh, you're welcome, Odele. I don't know if... you said 172 pounds. So I would suggest starting to track your macros and your macros. And one of the things you may want to try to do is try to get to 160, 180, 200 grams of protein a day. from different sources, but mainly, through meats. That would be a great way to do that. Meats and milks, Greek yogurts, protein shakes, beans. I love edamame. So I guess I can just quickly break down the protein sources that I use every day. So I usually have 20 grams of protein wise. I have 20 grams of protein in my plain Greek yogurt with my fruit in the morning. Probably do a video again as an update to tell you how I'm eating and what I'm doing as I cut down these 20 pounds, hopefully over the next year or so, and get back to hopefully the fittest I've ever been, in my 40s now. I do 20 grams of protein through my yogurt and my berries in the morning. I'll also have a milk latte coffee. So I just simply microwave my milk for about a minute and a half. Take the fat, any remaining fat off, skim it off. Helps with the lactose as well for me to digest it. Excuse me. And then I'll have a cup of coffee with that. So I usually have 2 cups of coffees a day. So that gets me to around 40 grams of protein. Then I'll have a protein bar. You can see above my head the pure protein bar. That gets me to 60 usually. I'll probably have 3 boiled eggs, which gets me to about 80. And then I'll have a can of tuna, and I'll either make cheese crackers on parchment paper, which is amazing, especially low-fat cheese. As you can tell, I'm pretty dairy heavy in the morning. And that'll get me to about 110, 120 grams of protein. And then usually by this point, I'm getting closer to dinner. So I like to graze throughout the day, during my 8 or 10 hour window or 12-hour window, depending on what I'm doing for that day. Sometimes it's a 6-hour window. And then I'll be able to, just eat whatever the family's eating, even if it's as simple as some chicken strips or whatever, but I don't eat too many of them. And then if I'm lacking in my protein at that point, I might have a can of sardines with it, or I may have some edamame, some nuts, which usually gets me to about 140, 160. And then that's when I go for a protein. I'd use my pea protein. I'll use, because I've had a lot of whey throughout the day, peanut protein, my whey isolate from Diesel, or if I'm, feeling rich, I'll have some turkey slices that I wrap some lettuce in, or cucumber, or celery in, just if I'm feeling like I need to fill myself up more. And so that usually lands me at around 2,000 to 2,500 calories, and I probably burn around 3,000 a day in my cut phase, right? And so I'm trying to get around 200, 210 grams of protein a day. I probably hit around 190 to 210 grams of protein a day. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder here, but for the first time in my life, I can actually afford to eat the amount of protein that I need. And so, it'll be interesting to see how that works. That's the hard part. Now I can't eat processed meats anymore because it's probably a good thing. I don't need any more fat and nitrates. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, there's tons of other. I mean, just you can load up on eggs. You can load up on, like I said, the dairy products. Greek yogurt is fantastic. Like I said before, a milk latte is a good source. And then canned tuna is pretty amazing, especially just from fresh water. The sardines are great. You can get, I would say chicken thighs are a lot cheaper than chicken breasts in North America. It's funny, the Asian community loves dark meat, and the North American community, because of the health point, the calories, the health points, they love the white meat. So it's one of those things where if you can get chicken thighs, you're in a pretty good compromise for the price. The chicken legs are a little too fatty if you're trying to like cut while building, and there's not enough protein content, but the chicken thighs are legit if you can do meal preps. I don't have the time or the space to do the meal prepping that I'd love to do. But yeah, you can get some really good deals on chicken thighs. So look around. The reason why I do the pure protein bars is the 20 grams of protein, 200 calories, and they go really nice with my second coffee in the day. It's a little treat, and the rest of the time I'm just trying to have, again, Greek yogurt is just plain skim milk, my coffee, my berries, a can of tuna, mustard, a bunch of spices. I might have a can of chicken. If it's on sale, I'll grab a bunch. The sardines are in the water, just the oil. Maybe the chicken strips are processed or whatever, but like tonight I rip up my roasted chicken. That'll be something else I'm going to do on the channel. Dad demolishing chicken. Uh, and, there's just different ways to approach this protein, the protein needs for your body. So, just look into it. I would say that's like a golden rule. The golden rules are get lots of rest if you want to be able to burn better energy. Your body is based off of thermodynamics. If you eat more protein, it's going to be harder for your body to break it down. It's going to build up your muscles. It's going to do that much, I think, up to 20 or 30% than the other carbs and fats and so on and so forth. Get it from multiple sources. It's pretty cheap, to eat, 2-3 eggs a day, a chicken thigh, a protein scoop, 2 cups of milk, some Greek yogurt, some berries. Depending on where you live in the world, you can eat for like 10, 12 bucks a day if you're willing to look. Of course, then there's other meals and snacks and stuff. I'm just talking about the bare bones of getting to that, for yourself, 170, 180. For me, it's like 200, 210 grams of protein. But for a long time, I couldn't afford it. And that's just where I was at. And I had an excess of around 10, 15 pounds of fat that I could never get rid of. And so I probably gained some in the past 10, 12 years, but I feel great that I'm not 305 pounds anymore. I am, by God's grace, and breaking the addictions in my life and moving away from corn, that's the word I'm supposed to say, or X-rated content, and from gambling, and from my rage and anger and stealing and all the things that I struggled with for a 20-year period, to beat those type, and of course gorging on my gluttony. By God's grace, I'm in a better headspace, and my wife, my 3 kids, my church community, moving towards becoming a pastor, working as a pastor on some level, doing the life coaching, getting my brand together in that sense as well. So there's a lot of things going on right now that allow me to be in a good headspace and just take it one day at a time. If anyone has any other questions or comments about fitness, about life, about, I do coaching when it comes to faith, in your walk with addiction, when it comes to family. I'm father of 3, lovely wife, lovely family situation, a lot of work. I've gone through 5 rounds of counseling on my own to get rid of those addictions and problems and be the best man that I can be for my family. I've been around the block, help with finances, and of course we're talking a lot more fitness tonight. So if anyone has any comments or questions about that, please let me know. And I'd love to chat with you. And if not, that's okay. I'm about to get ready to make my big old smoothie. Bam! My last smoothie for the night consists of some creatine powder to help me sleep a little bit better at night. Some coconut. I do the peanut butter protein with the diesel whey. 1 banana. Couple strawberries here, so it gets me about 40 grams of protein, 300 calories. I put some ice in there, and it's pretty much. Sorry, I was eating banana. It's all good, brother. You gotta eat when you gotta eat. Gonna make that. Spend some time with the wifey. Appreciate Odele all the questions. I'm gonna try to be on here 2-3 times a week, doing some study, Bible study, helping, sharing, dad advice, life advice, and then moving into any other questions. So, Odele, I would say, in closing here, try your best to diversify your workouts, feel more of a burn. Don't go for higher reps, because higher reps, unless you're doing the marathon side of things, is not going to help you. You want to get yourself into a place where you get to a quicker burn. I'm more of the Dorian Yates, Mike Menser. Just do like 1 set till it burns you, and just keep increasing the weight or the difficulty. So 1 set's kind of a warm up, but you do 1 set till you basically max out, instead of doing 3 or 4 or 7 sets, and you're just wasting a lot of time. And maybe it's just convenience, but Dorian Yates won, I'm not a muscle guy that way, but he won 5 or 6 Mr. Universe or more than that. and Mike Metzer was considered the only 300 when it comes to pro bodybuilding. So they must have known something, and there is a big movement towards that one set to failure. I think a lot of people just want to work out for the workout's sake. I'm just like, I do 2 sets, 1 warm up, and then 1 till max, and I just keep on increasing whatever the tension is, whatever it is. So, and then just get those get protein in, Ole. Yeah, appreciate all your comments and questions. So I'll just wrap up the video, as it looks like you're saying you appreciate things, and I appreciate you. If you'd like to watch any other if you'd like to watch any of the other dad doing dishes videos, you can take a look at it up here. If you'd like to subscribe, that'd be amazing. You can do that down here. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless.